Welcome, Ring of Honor fans, to the purest podcast in all of pro wrestling. The podcast famous for handshaking, and that sounded bad. Signs of respect, for adhering to the rules, not going excessive with rope breaks, all of the above, and respecting the history of this great sport, professional wrestling. I am, of course, Joseph James Hulbert, joined as always by my all-star panel here of Ring of Honor experts. First, I throw it to the great Roberto O'Neill. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Good to be back. We both took last week off from the show, and we're back here. Everyone's probably very excited to see us again.
I agree, because they don't get to see us anywhere else, so they have to wait for the... I agree. Jeremy Lambert, my distraction cohort, over on the Fightful YouTube channel at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You were very famous for writing wrestling headlines, but you're also an expert on the honourable ones in Ring of Honor. Are you excited to be here today, pal?
I'm always excited. This is the best show we do, and now it's just a watch-along show, so it's even better.
Stephen Jensen, the independent wrestling analyst of our program, also a Ring of Honor expert, interestingly enough. Jensen, how you doing?
Doing great, guys. I'm looking forward to watching some Ring of Honor. Great intro, by the way, Joe. He was hyping up before we went live. He was like going to do a big intro. That was a big intro, buddy. I'm glad to have you guys back. Good to see you again, Bob. Good to see you again, Joseph. And good to see you once again, Jeremy.
I think every week I'm going to just have a different approach to the intro. Like sometimes I'm going to just be like, anyway, guys, here we are. Push play in 3. I'm going to just play around with it and see what our audience prefers. Now, you did mention Jeremy Lambert, my distraction cohort, that this program is now a full watch-along. Now, I wanted to talk about this quickly because it's a topic worth tackling. I think, we've all covered, we had a chance to talk about Ring of Honor's current predicament, and it sucks, and we all, share that sentiment, obviously. With all love and respect to the men and women that are working, that did just work those tapings that are currently airing on TV, listen, there's only so many ways we can have the same conversation that concludes with us going, we hope these people land on their feet. It feels almost like we'd be just spinning our wheels covering it. I will say, and I'll talk on my own behalf here, but you guys are welcome to join us on whatever Monday or Tuesday we do it. Final Battle is a lock for me. I'm watching that show. That's going to be a show that I need to watch for my fandom's sake. And if so, if the other guys want to do that, we'll review that in terms of modern product. And if eventually the thing comes back, we'll be the first ones there covering it. As for the TV, though, it kind of feels unnecessary, right? Jensen, you spoke about it a little bit with me before. It's with all due respect to the guys, we don't need to talk about it, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of like for anyone who listens to the Weekender podcast I do at Fightful Select, this is kind of the conversation I have with myself every time I bring up 205 Live, because I cover that show, and I'm always I'm glad these people have somewhere to wrestle, but it just feels like everyone I'm talking about winds up, somewhere else, and it'd be kind of the same kind of thing here with Ring of Honor. We're kind of just be talking over and over about, we don't know the future of the company, so it's hard to get super stoked on storylines and where everything's heading. But of course, just like 205 Live, just like Ring of Honor, ROH really, really does have a ton of talent there, and most of the talent, if not all of the talent, is going to land on their feet somewhere. So there's a lot of silver linings with all this, like we've talked about before. But it's just it's tough to review a show like that each week when you kind of know it's heading nowhere, ultimately.
Absolutely. Bob, you're obviously the newest of us here to the Ring of Honor program. We've talked about a little bit. Are you in on this Final Battle plan? I don't know how we're going to approach it yet, but it feels like we need to cover it in some form or fashion.
Yeah, that sounds fine. What are we, 3 weeks away from that, I believe? It's
November 11th.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It'll be interesting what kind of show that is. None of us know as of yet if it's going to be, we don't know what the public statement will be by that time either. Things could have changed. It could be a formal last show. We don't know, right? But when the time comes, we'll cover it, obviously. Jeremy, any take on the format change before we get started here with some watch-alongs?
I'm offended Steven Jensen has called out 205 Live, which has become the Roderick Strong Showcase show.
I was going to just let that slide today. Well, I actually watch that show every week.
No, it's terrifying. No, so do I. I have to review it every week. But I'm just saying it's one of those things where it's I get really scared seeing a guy like Roderick Strong on there every week. Kushida wasn't even there ever when he was the champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit scary.
this is a different topic for another day, but we might as well talk about it. It's becoming a really interesting project though, in that Roddy is literally working with guys that have not wrestled on their TV. Like, he is very people use the phrase player coach all the time, right? I'm guilty of it. Like Matt Seidel, player coach. Let me tell you, Roderick Strong right now is a player coach. Now, if he can, I'm all for him doing that because I get to see him wrestle. But I get what you're saying in the sense that that show has had a trend as of late, and it isn't a particularly exciting one. So I get it completely, even though it is absolutely the best program they produce. It goes 30 minutes, so there's Nigel McGuinness on commentary. Anyway, we ready to watch some wrestling, guys?
Yes, all of the links are in the description. Okay. So I think I got them correct this week. I think I know I screwed up last week.
While everyone pulls up the first match, which is CM Punk and Raven, a famous feud. I think it's probably the best way to describe this whole thing. The dog collar match from the very first, I want to say, Death Before Dishonor. This is July 19th, 2003, and we'll talk about this a little bit during the match because there's some dead time in the match for us to discuss it. It is not lost on me that we are legitimately 3 days removed from a CM Punk bloodbath, and here we are in July of 2003, and it's one of his, real big matches early on in his career. This show, Bob, you'll be excited to know, is main evented by Samoa Joe and Paul London. A co-main event of AJ Styles and Amazing Red versus the Briscoes. Wow. Again, crazy shit. This is a very, very famous feud for a lot of reasons. And even though the matches aren't, as we're going to learn here, sort of classical Ring of Honor by any means, and some of them, I'll be honest, I don't love all of the stuff they did in Ring. It's very much one that still lives strong in the memory of Ring of Honor fans because it's significant in a lot of ways. I would say it was a real show of what the promotion could be in the sense that it wasn't in just one lane. It was almost a territory blood feud. It really was something quite special. Jensen, any memories of this program and this whole thing where Raven left WWE and was kind of, he really injected some new life into the scene. He did great stuff in TNA. He did great stuff in Ring of Honor. So any broad thoughts on that stuff?
Well, I was about to mention, with TNA, it was interesting because this feud kind of overlapped into TNA too, because you had Raven, Julio De Niro, and CM Punk as the Ravens kind of flock or whatever they call the Ravens nest. I can't remember what they called it in TNA. It's at one point it was called Serotonin with random members. But I remember that because I remember being very, very into NWA TNA, and it was that was how I really was introduced to Punk. And then I was like, oh wait, he's the man over here in Ring of Honor. Yeah. And that was, and also just for what it's worth, that Paul London Samoa Joe match rules. That was right before Paul London went off the WWE. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is a hell of a show, but that's kind of what I remember about this. I remember them teaming on TNA, but having this blood feud over in Ring of Honor kind of at the same time.
Yeah. And in addition to that, their feud bled over into MLW, where they had these, I don't know what the most generous way to describe them was, but they were puzzling matches they had there. They didn't feel like they were connected to this at all. They kind of had these cold matches. A really interesting time here as independent wrestling kind of found where it was headed. Bob, I'm really intrigued. I'm pretty confident you haven't seen this match. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure a lot of the chat hasn't. Is this one, though, that the kind of legacy of has reached you just because of how much people talk about it with Raven? Because it is, I think it's one of Raven's most kind of critically acclaimed works post ECW, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about it, and, I've kind of I was following TNA casually when they were still doing the weekly pay-per-views as best as I could, back then. And, Raven was one of the guys that was really kind of paramount in getting TNA off the ground. So yeah, I'm excited to see this because, a lot of my history with Raven for a long time was just WCW, WWF, where he's been kind of hit or miss. And it seems like he does very good stuff here.
He's a really interesting guy. I think it's a conversation worth having as the match takes place. But before we hit play, Jeremy, any memories of this one, pal, on the old playing on the iPad gimmick?
It was an iPad. It was an iPod video.
That's right.
This was Punk's breakout.
Yes, it was
on the independent scene because like you said, Raven was a known name from ECW. He was very established. So him coming to ROH gave them more of a big time feel, and CM Punk feuding with him and doing this kind of feud was oh shit, and holding his own too. It's not like Raven trucked CM Punk at all. More than held his own, got a lot from Raven. Yeah, this was Punk's real big breakout.
I want to say that I think there was some shenanigans, but I want to say that he got the full on Raven in the first time they interacted in the ring. Like he was very much, as you said, framed as an equal, and that was a huge deal for Punk. This feud and the content of the feud, which we're about to get into as the promo starts here when we push play, is very, very kind of, I would dare say, it's iconic in terms of what the Punk character represents when he's a heel. But we'll get to that. Let's fire this one up, folks. Get the link is in the bio of this video, right? The description of this video.
Yep.
CM Punk Raven, the dog collar match. We will be hitting play in 3, 2, 1, play. Now, it is worth noting that this video will begin with a pretty lengthy CM Punk promo. It's quite a famous promo. If you've never seen it and you want to, just mute us dipshits up and enjoy CM Punk. If you want to do some pausing, you can do whatever you want to do. I just wanted to tell you, like, I can't sit here with dead air for 4 minutes while we all just listen to the promo, guys. I'm sorry. I can't. My brain would explode. But it's a great promo, Bob. If you want to listen to it, because I know you haven't seen a lot of this stuff, you can feel free, pal. The content of this feud, and this is what I was touching on a moment ago, because he kind of rekindled it with the Jeff Hardy program in WWE, with, his backstory and the reason he's straight edge and the way he kind of weaponized that as a villain. This was a huge thing, right? And that's the big time content of this whole deal. Intrigued on, all these years later, Jeremy, your read on that as like what it was used as a storytelling device, right? Punk being straight edge and the way that he used it as a heel anyway, to be like, literally would say, I'm better than you because of it. It's interesting.
And I think we're going to see it at some point in AEW, because we've seen it everywhere else he's gone. And there's certainly ways you can do it in AEW. I mean, Joseph, you booked the whole next year of the AEW world title last night, and Hangman was part of that. And, he could certainly do it with Hangman. There are other guys you could potentially do it with.
Yeah.
And a big feud with that. But I think it's going to happen at some point.
There's elements to that with when he talks about Kingston not working hard, he could 100% go that direction with it. 100%, right? Which would be interesting. Jensen, any memories of, because it's very out of capture now with us just, talk, but like this is a feud, and it's a rare one in Ring of Honor history in this sense, that really was defined by the promos and the angles. Any memories of the reaction to all this content at the time?
Dude, yeah, I remember like CM Punk, and I remember Chuck Taylor being one of these guys that used to like go up and like scream in like kids' faces for it was like it was incredible. Like they would do anything to get people to hate them. Get right up in people's faces. Didn't matter what their age were. It was a very interesting concept because like at the heart of what CM Punk is saying in these kind of promos, it's actually kind of like baby face, lifestyle decisions, right? But he's just such a jerk about being. It's like MJF nowadays. I'm better than you, and you know it. It's like the same kind of idea.
Literally, go ahead, finish your point. Sorry.
I was about to say, I'm sure if you figure that into your AEW plans, like that's pretty much like a story in itself. MJF and CM Punk. That kind
Quite
of stuff.
literally in my notes here, because I watched this yesterday morning, so I could have some stuff to talk about here, like so we can set stuff up. And I put in my notes, the M is not. I can't confirm Matt Taven. It's Danny Doring. He's keep that in mind. I put MJF down because that comparison, and it comes up often. I'd forgotten how real it was to the early Punk promos, man. There's a lot of MJF in him. There's a lot of Punk in MJF, young Punk in MJF. Well, as we enter a time in which Kingston is suggesting that Punk is a hypocrite, MJF kind of almost exposing that while Punk remains a kind of babyface. There's something to that, right? There has to be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. It's wild because there's all these kind of like built-in CM Punk feuds, like whether heel or babyface, but the most interesting ones are definitely of him as a heel. Yeah. Like, because the obvious one, of course, is like Hangman being an alcoholic and all this stuff, like CM Punk. I don't know how far they'll go with some of this stuff, considering, what's going on with Moxley right now. Like, they might want to be kind of sensitive to that, which I understand. But there's a lot in that Punk character being like that judgmental, and like you said, with with like Kingston kind of exposing Punk, that would be incredible. Because like, who wouldn't want to see a rematch between those guys? Sometime in the next couple months or something. I mean, that was incredible this past week.
Yeah, we got to get the rematch. It'll be magical. To your point, the Hangman thing is interesting. Obviously, after the title match on Saturday, he had the beer and he threw it away. There you go. Awesome figure, by the way.
With the title belt. Let's go.
An awesome figure. Hangman, he threw the beer away after the match, and I do think there's a chance they kind of distance him from that part of his character.
Same.
I'll be honest, you guys, I'm not saying they have to. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me for obvious reasons.
I think that, Jensen mentioned Moxley. Punk mentioned Moxley in his promo. Moxley is very much pro wrestler. And when he comes back, and if he's like, let's do something with this, there is, I believe, a tasteful way. And it might just be something as like CM Punk saying, I was proud of you because you did this. That took a lot of balls and stuff. The difference is like, I never had to make that choice. Like you got to that point and had to make that choice.
It's always a tough line to walk.
Yeah.
Punk has always willingly walked it, for better or worse. I'm not saying everyone has to like it, but if you look at his track record, what Jeremy says is very likely. He's always done stuff like that. Now, even if you go to like the stuff he did with Taker with Paul Bearer, right? Like where it was, you kind of, he likes playing that stuff. He likes making people uncomfortable. And as a villain, he really likes pushing buttons. Oh, but I don't know how much of this promo you got. I know that we're rambling here. I'm sorry, but it's the one part that's really interesting is that Danny Doring there and such there is an element of the sort of generational war. But before we go any further with that, Bob, did you hear any of that promo, pal?
I did. Yeah, it's very good. I mean, it really set the matchup well. Kind of went over everything they were feuding for. It did its job, man.
So the best versions of that promo, Punk had some incredible ones that were like, after a match, they would tape him, Like there's that famous one where he gives his whole family backstory, and it's incredible pro. But that is a very good one for sure. He's very hesitant here with the dog collar. Has to be one of the most difficult match stipulations to pull off, right? It's got to be. It just has to be. But I don't know, Bob, how many dog collar matches have you seen? I'm intrigued because I mean, this one, Hammer and Piper from Starrcade, and Brody and Cody is probably about. I think that's my limit. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, I think I've only seen the Brody and Cody one. To be honest with you, yeah. I
don't mean that's an uncommon. I don't know. Jeremy, you got any?
Is off the top of my head, the three that you mentioned are the three.
Look at that.
That I recall as well. Maybe is there like a famous one that? I feel like WCW probably did like some shitty ones.
And the bull rope match
exactly
about the same. Like there's been a lot of those.
Yeah, so I just googled dog collar match and like Saturn versus Chris Jericho from Uncensored '99. I've seen it.
Oh yes, yeah.
Do you remember stuff like this? No. But...
Raven had the one in ECW too, where it was like him and Stevie against.
Yes, the
Pitbulls. Right? Yeah, they did the tag one, which was very. It was a daring attempt. They did their best.
Yeah, so I have seen that one as well. So it's probably more than you kind of remember now that we run through them.
The difference, just in case anyone's not clear, because Jensen's right, it's inferior. Like the way you work the match is very similar. The real difference is with the Texas Ballroom match, you do the finish where it's the touching the corners, right? Whereas dog collar, it's pin. Usually, I could be wrong on that. I'm sure there's an outlier to that, but generally that is the difference. Raven is a fascinating one in that, like, I would say he's pretty critically acclaimed, but he's like match catalog. I think if he was sitting in there, he would agree that he was never like a guy that would kind of reliably have great matches. That wasn't his thing, right? In fact, I would say this is probably one of his most well-received matches, which is kind of, when you consider how deep he is into his career as a top guy, that's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, like I remember him having a lot of matches like that mattered in WCW, but really what was the most impressive to me was that he kept a DDT over in an era when like everyone was doing a DDT. You know what I mean? But like the even flow DDT / Raven effect, like that was still like that was a badass move. Because he kept it over, which I was just thought was always worth noting. I guess it was just really impressive when, it's almost like every now and then when you see someone win with a Canadian Destroyer, like, yeah, someone should be winning with a Canadian Destroyer.
Right.
It's a Canadian Destroyer. I kind of feel the same way about a DDT, you know?
It's really interesting because Raven is a guy that has been consistently cited by peers as like a wrestling genius. Like always people list his name. And as far as I know, his actual like opportunities to book and stuff are pretty slim in the grand scheme of things. Am I wrong on that? I feel like he's not done a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah, and he's in the kind of the same boat as Scott Hall. Like for like, you know, maybe, you know, Scott Hall, I'd imagine, has a lot to do with like unreliability and like, you know, personal, but like maybe the same. I don't want to speculate with Raven, but that always seems strange to me that he didn't do more behind the scenes because he was so well known for having such a good mind for wrestling.
I think the most famous like worked Raven matches. There's this one. There's probably some TNA stuff. He had like a good match. I feel like one of the Jarrett matches, maybe he won the title on King of the Mountain. One of the Jarrett matches was probably good. I feel like
Yes, it was. Yes,
he probably wrestled AJ, and I'm sure that was great. The triple threat in WCW, Paige and the other guy, everyone loved that match. Like Spring Stampede.
Yeah, I forget. A lot of that stuff blurs. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll say this.
There's a really famous triple threat match.
The Jarrett match you brought up, like, I actually think is objectively better than this, to be honest with you. That match popped. That to me is like an old school territory main event.
Right.
This match is really interesting in that. And like, guys, I know we're going to talk over stuff a lot, but like, you know, you can watch it before or after. My bad. We're just trying to have conversation here. But it's very much a package in terms of like what they achieve from a booking standpoint. And that will make more sense when we get to the end of the video. The match itself is good, but like it's more the grand scheme of things as a feud what this does. And that's why it's so famous, I would say. I mean, thus far, man, like I mean we're coming up to a cutoff here, but thus far Raven has just beat Punk up.
Raven's kicked until that little blow.
There you go.
That triple threat you were talking about, that was Benoit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, you're
that's
right.
why we've erased them out of our own memories.
Yeah, that's why I said the other guy.
But you said the other guy? Oh, I didn't know you intentionally said that.
I didn't either.
I couldn't remember who was in it. And I was like, wait, okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
Paige and the other guy in that triple threat match.
Okay, there you go.
That was a very famous WCW match.
I adore that spot there where Punk goes low and Raven basically is just like, nah, not today. I ain't letting that shit fly today, man. I'm here to mess you up. It's good stuff. Bob, this strikes me as the kind of match that stylistically you've not seen a lot of. Where you at on this so far? As we have,
I'm really enjoying it so far. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of it so far, but yeah, it's been a really strong brawl.
Right. Well, that's the thing is Punk, and you know, we talked about this in modern times, Jeremy, when you and I were kind of having fun at the idea that him and King were going to have a bad match. Punk's just great at pro wrestling, man. And even if you look back here, how at home does he feel here as the just horrid, just vile heel, bleeding everywhere and getting the shit kicked out of him? He's great, right?
So and I mean, Punk wore a lot of different gear, but like you knew he was going to get busted open this match. The wrist tape, the white wrist tape, the white shorts, and all this stuff. Like aesthetically, he knew already what was going on. Yeah. And it's we talk about little things like that are just what can make an exceptional pro wrestler and separate them from just a very good pro wrestler.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the stuff that meant that he could come back and it wouldn't miss a beat. You know, it's just his wrestling brain is elite. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure, I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty confident that he would cite some of this stuff as the reason for that. I'm sure he learned a lot at this time, man. He's, Raven's, for all we just said of the ups and downs of his in-ring efforts, like, we all just agreed that we've heard many a wrestler talk about how genius that dude is when it comes to the industry. So I'm sure it helped Punk a lot this young into his career.
And again, we talked about this feud making Punk. Punk has said... Raven's about to get some color here. Yeah. Punk has said many times that big reason why he left WWE is like they weren't putting anybody over and everything. All the old guys would come back and they just kept going over. So the young guys weren't doing anything. Raven came in here Raven, established ECW star. He could have easily been like, who? I'm just going to kick the shit out of this guy and give him nothing. And instead, Raven, very selfless of, let's make somebody here. And stuff like that sticks with a young wrestler. And Punk, you're seeing the AEW guys are now reaping that reward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong on this because this is from, I haven't got, didn't look it up. I should have, but I think this feud was, when it was done, I don't think Raven appeared in Ring of Honor again. He very much, his legacy in Ring of Honor is very much this and what he did for Punk, interestingly. I mean, if he did come back, I'm pretty sure it was only for one shot here and there, you know?
Yeah.
His last match in Ring of Honor was a CM Punk match.
Was it the cage match?
It was the Lottery from Hell old school steel cage match. Yeah.
There you go, yeah. Because that's the blow off, and that match is not my favorite.
I mean, he only wrestled 9 matches in Ring of Honor.
There you go.
All but 2 of them featured CM Punk. One was against Steve Corino. One was against Justin Credible. Every other match featured CM Punk. So he really just came in, did this feud, and that was it. And yeah, he took the first loss. I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil everything. But,
no, I get, but it's your point was that he very much he comes into the territory, and when he leaves, they have actually got something truly valuable out of Raven's presence, right? Now, what's interesting about that is, and this is what I was touching on with Danny Doring and all that stuff, and this is important, Bob, for you to kind of, as they do some crowd broadening here, to kind of wrap your head around, because it's difficult because they feel so stylistically at odds. ECW's legacy is very important to Ring of Honor's existence because Gabe is literally directly Heyman's protege, right? And it's the promotion that was formed because of a certain video company needing new content. It was in the same area, etc., etc. So when Punk talks about, he isn't just doing promos about alcoholism. He's also regularly talking about this generation that with their revolution of extreme did all these terrible things and inspired people to do things the wrong way. So you have this kind of generational deal where the audience that wants to like Ring of Honor is being actively insulted by Punk. And there's so I guess what I'm getting at is there's more kind of emotional weight to it than it may seem because of the ECW link. Crowd brawling here. It's hilarious, right? Because the whole what Ring of Honor stands for as a product is completely in contrast with what generally ECW stood for. Generally,
that's all. Also, remember, I mean, Heyman's talked about it a lot, and Gabe would have as well. He would have been around knowing this. ECW, Heyman knew that they were going to have to. This is probably what ECW would have eventually looked like. Yes. Is what Ring of Honor is. They knew they couldn't just do the hardcore wrestling and stay on TV and just keep to that format. So Gabe probably was hey, this is what Heyman would do. Let's just find these guys that, and with this, there's so many parallels between Punk and Raven. That makes this work so well. Cause Punk, even aesthetically, the bleached hair and the kind of same look. And it was almost like making a new kind of Raven. Cause Raven was such a big deal at this time, for this scene. So yeah, this all worked really, really, really well for everybody.
There are certainly some exceptions, but for the most part, every top Ring of Honor guy through this first few years, you could literally in your head imagine Heyman just being in love with them, Yeah. And Jeremy can say, because he listened to the Homicide interview, we talked about it a little bit on the air. Homicide spoke about that, right? He just basically says, well, I couldn't be in ECW, but I was really in ECW because I was in Ring of Honor. It was, it was the kind of spiritual successor in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
all of these guys were the next generation.
This is a great spot coming up here.
Guys.
This is awesome.
Oh man,
another guy that's another guy that's gonna always be linked to CM Punk, and I'm sure we'll get into it at some point throughout the watch along. Was Chris Hero, and he's a guy that I always felt like he just was wrong place, wrong time his entire career. Because he would have been huge in ECW, and as a young unknown, I think he would have been a really big deal.
I gotta be honest with you, I think I'd cut a limb off to get Hero inserted into this Kingston Punk situation right now. Can you imagine?
Dude.
I don't know how the live crowd react to it, but my timeline would explode. It'd be incredible.
I I'm not ruling out like him.
No, I'm not either. No,
coming in for something.
I think he's got. I mean, because that's the thing. It's really wild. Sorry about my camera, y'all. I did a Windows update like a week ago, and it ruined all my settings. But anyways, with Chris Hero, so much of like the current fan base probably just knows him as like the NXT UK kind of like, and, it's like you don't know any like, oh my god, like him and Punk had some series of matches on the indies that like hold up to this day as like some of the best matches I've ever seen. Like, man, he's
honestly one of the best wrestlers of the last 20 years. I don't say that with any hesitation. Like, he is a special pro wrestler, man. He was. I say he is because I haven't had any evidence that he's worse. He just hasn't wrestled in a couple of years now, right? Like 18 months, whatever it's been. But the last time I saw him, he still looked as good as that. He's spectacular.
The fact that, and this is why I say, like, I'm not ruling out him possibly coming in. Like, I'm sure you guys heard it where Jericho mentioned that they've bantered about Chris Jericho or Chris Hero being one of the labors of Jericho. And it's like, well, this doesn't really like make sense or anything. But the fact that his name was brought up shows that somebody is thinking about him in some capacity. Yeah. And so we obviously know Punk and Kingston's connection there. And if they want to be to Chris Hero, like we heard the Homicide story, Joseph, and I'm sure you read the Kingston interview where he said like Homicide was just backstage at that show, just visiting friends. And Moxie's like, all right, we're going to get him on the fucking show. Like if Hero just shows up at an AEW event to visit friends, they're like, all right, let's throw him on here and let's do something with this.
Well, because the craziest thing with Hero is that he was around since like 98 or something. Yes. But he like missed out. He was never on Nitro. He was never on Raw. To this day, never once on Monday Night Raw. Like they've been around forever, and it's like Joseph is saying. It's like if you know, you know. It's like he might be one of the best wrestlers of the last couple decades.
I really think. Especially if you got like US workers, because the problem is I'm not educated on the Mexican scene, and I've only seen like pieces of the Japanese wrestling of the last 20 years. I've seen a lot of it, but not enough to be confident. In terms of the US, I think Hero has got to be. I'm being really safe and saying top 10. Just bell to bell I'm talking about here, not like all this other. Just in the ring, he's incredible.
My favorite Hero run is like his second indie run.
Oh, yeah, that's the best stuff. Yeah,
everyone is like, oh, he's out of shape now because he left WWE and just he's not the same. And he's like, no, I'm gonna wrestle every single style. Do what?
Yeah. PWG was that mid 2010s when him and Roddy were like, they were to me they were the two best wrestlers in the world at that point.
And that was why it was so damn disappointing that like they brought him to NXT because he was so red hot on the indies.
Yes, he was.
And then they had him like challenge for the title, and then it was just like nothing after that.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, like because he was probably the top indie star when he got signed. And
look at this fire up from Raven here. Like this is again not a guy that's famous as like a in-ring dynamo by any means, but this is one of the great babyface fire ups you'll ever see. And I'm not even being dramatic here. Look at this deal.
Clothesline City.
Yeah, that's good.
Look at this, man. I mean, you would not think Raven, frankly, had the gas tank for this deal at this point in the match, right? To me, this is when the match is at its best, is when Raven's flying uphill when Punk's in control. I think the part where Raven's kind of dominating is probably like a portion too long. Thankfully, Punk learned his lesson and did 11-minute pay-per-view matches 18 years later. But, this part, Punk's got such poise, man. Such poise. He's so great at this time. Great comeback from Raven. Yeah, we've talked about it before, Reese. The Nakamura thing was it was such a hilarious. Like he confronted Nakamura and then Bob Roode was the champ, and it was like, wait, what? What's going on here?
Yeah, and then he challenged him on NXT TV for the belt, and it just didn't win. It was like, oh, then nothing after that, really. The next thing I knew, he was losing. I think we talked about it before. He was losing to that Snitsky-looking guy. I can't ever remember his name.
Yes, Lars Sullivan.
Sullivan, yeah.
Snitsky-looking guy.
Yeah, that was something.
I don't remember if this is correct, Joseph. You've listened to. By the way, has Hero done any more of those like conversation videos? He did the one with Mojo and Molly. Have you seen any other?
There is a new one. I've forgotten who's on it. I'm sorry. There's a new one. Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up because I might have to download that and go through it.
He's excellent. I mean, he
just goes through like their whole career, and obviously, me looking for stories, I'll get 15 different stories out of it.
Yeah, because he has his subjects' respect too, which means they're going to elaborate and actually give real answers, rather than just being like, that was fun.
Right. Oh, there's one with Derek Dukes. That's not super pressing that I need to go through.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, no. Oh, no. That one wouldn't pass the Twitter check these days, Bob, would it?
No.
Chair shot to the head on the referee. Look at that use of the dog collar.
I remember, obviously, Hero is such a wrestling historian and everything. And I remember, probably the best thing he did in the company the entire time he was there was when they released that little documentary about the oh my god, the match, the lost match with Bret Hart and the guy's name is escaping me. The guy who looked like Kerry Von Erich, kind of.
McGee.
Tom McGee. And half that thing was Chris Hero explaining everything. And I was like, this guy's a genius. Why is he not doing anything with this guy? At least put him on commentary or something.
Cabana is look at this. Danny Doran's hit the ring.
Fresh off of his tag team running with the Amish Roadkill.
Look how young Colt Cabana looked when he hit the ring, man. It's outrageous. I mean, the thing is, he still looks great. He looks like a kid there almost. It's wild. Yeah. Now, Jensen talks about protecting the DDT. Look at that.
Yep.
You talk about protecting it. That deal was a finish, bro. You could sit there for 20 seconds. He's still going to be out on a chair. The post-match of this is very famous, so we'll leave the video running. It's a really interesting match in that it feels so kind of... And this sounds wrong because there was a lot of violence in Ring of Honor, no doubt. But that to me really feels like a throwback to an old school top feud in a territory. Blood and guts, and they built this program and they talked them into it. And I think it's cool they stuck to their guns and did what they wanted to do with it. I think it's a really good match, to be clear. I mean, I said earlier, it isn't, I'm not saying it's the greatest match ever, but I think it's really good for what it is. What did you guys think of the match itself?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I kind of thought it would be I kind of thought it'd be more contained into the ring, and I liked that, they were able to get out, they were able to go in the crowd, turn it into kind of more of a brawl sort of thing, and I was into it.
And Bob, you may have missed this because we were talking so much, but the pre-match promo, they made it very clear Punk wanted to get away at all costs, so it made sense that he would kind of just extend it as far as he could. Jeremy, rewatching that one, any thoughts, pal?
It flew by. I knew that the video was 30 minutes, and I knew that the match was not 30 minutes or close to it, but I was still surprised at just how quickly it went by. Raven worked his ass off for Punk, and Punk gave just as much as he got. But you could see, if you were watching at this time and you were paying attention and you knew enough, because I was watching at this time and I didn't grasp pro wrestling like that when I was this age. But if you're watching it now and you don't you haven't seen any of the new stuff, you can see just how good Punk was going to kind of
absolutely
this.
Jensen, before we hit the big angle here coming up, any thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I very little downtime, and that's why it flew by. And this is also kind of this is the CM Punk we're seeing in AEW. This guy, as far as balls to the wall, even when he's in AEW and his matches might only be 10 minutes or whatever, it's nonstop. It's this mentality that he has of going out there and, oh man, and then he pours the beer all over Raven's head. But yeah, man, it's just damn good stuff. There's a reason why people still talk about this match. It's been almost 20 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got this is a really special moment, I think, for what we were talking about earlier about the ties between what Ring of Honor was becoming and what the reason it was around at all and ECW's demise. It's also hilarious, obviously, that Punk ends up being the face of the weird ECW.
ECW.
Yeah. Here we go.
Oof. This is so good.
Now the people are into it before, but this is a different level of reaction when this bit happens, right?
Yeah. You can see it too. Even if you have it on mute, you can see it.
It's electric, and there's a lot of history with. Like, look, I'm not an ECW. I've mentioned before I haven't watched enough ECW. It's a blind spot, and one day we'll do a series where someone that's more familiar takes me through it, perhaps, or maybe Jeremy. I don't know, but everyone knows what that program, Raven and Dreamer, meant to that promotion. That was that was Heyman's. Like, he loved that shit, and so did the audience. So it's a significant moment for sure.
Like, that's how good the storytelling was and the matches were in ECW. Because when the story, for people who don't remember, the story between Raven and Dreamer all stems from them both wanting to get with Bewley McGillicuddy at summer camp when they were kids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's peak. That's tremendous stuff. Yeah, it's one of the great wrestling stories. Again, I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but it's much like this thing probably has for Bob in some ways. Some stuff's the legacy of it is so strong, you can't miss it, right? If you read enough about wrestling, you watch enough, you'll hear all about it. Now, before in the pre-match promo, Punk, like one of his big talking points, he kind of slid it in, but it wasn't subtle, but it was well done. He was talking about, booze, and he goes, and that's never touching my lips. And I'd forgotten where this went, and I was watching it, and I was like, yeah, I got a feeling I remember now what happens in this deal.
Well, this is similar to what him and Jericho did.
Yes.
Yeah.
In WWE. Like, there's a lot of, if you rewatch this Punk and Raven feud and you rewatch the Punk and Jericho feud from WWE, you can see, and also the Punk and Hardy feud.
Yeah.
Like, you can see the similarities in that kind of stuff. Like we mentioned almost at the top, like, Punk loves doing this kind of stuff where you can kind of blur the lines a little bit, and especially when it comes to substances, because he is straight edge. He loves bringing that shit up, and you can do a lot with it, especially when you got a guy as good as Punk and as comfortable as Punk.
The Jericho stuff, I really like that they switched roles, though.
Yes,
that was nice for sure.
Yeah, that was. I'll always remember that. Like, was like the leader of Jack Daniels or whatever. He smashed on his head. That was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Look at the people's reaction to this shit, man. That's good stuff. Raven, I think, gets the mic here in a moment. It is, I can't remember who said it, but someone said, like, as much as he didn't get it and he messed it up and he revived it, Vince definitely admires that Paul Lee got the audience to care about the brand as much as he did. Because that's Vince's shit, right? Like, caring about the brand more than who's actually on the show. They love that, man. Those 3 letters mean everything to those people.
Wasn't that like a big part of the story of Vince bringing it back in the first place? Was like people were doing the ECW chant so often. Of course, there was like the DVD, the Rise and Fall.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do remember. At least I've convinced myself I remember this. Y'all might be able to confirm this. Didn't Vince report like he at one point he said that he was the one who conditioned the fans to chant ECW?
Probably, yeah. Sounds like that.
Sounds like a Vince chant.
Look at Punk here, man. Just a great heel. An all-time great heel, if we're being real about it. Like, he's genuinely one of the great villains.
Yeah, I mean, he was again.
Yeah, it's coming, brother. Is that finish of the Kingston match when he looked at the people? It's coming. And I think he's really going to channel 97 Brett, where he's kind of like, I didn't do nothing wrong and you people booed me. I really think that's where he's going with it. Well, there you go. Now, I said it earlier. I think it makes pretty more sense now. The match is real good, but it's just a piece of business, right? Start to finish. Again, we didn't have the promo because we were talking here, but if you guys watch that, either you watch it live or you're going to watch it after, it achieves so much in that kind of, pretty 40-minute block in actual real time. It's pretty impressive stuff. Okay, before we move on to the next one, any final thoughts on what we've seen today of the CM Punk Raven thing, Bob?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I really liked it, and I think the pre-match and post-match stuff really added to it too.
Jeremy, anything else?
Not that I haven't said already. Just
okay.
Yeah, good show.
Well, quickly put a bow on it, and Jensen, I'll throw it to you after this. But they had 2 more matches in Ring of Honor. The Clockwork Orange match you mentioned to me, Jeremy, on the show like a couple weeks back, right? Which was long, from what I recall. The cage match was the blow-off. Along the way, And it's not a very good match, but it's kind of famous that it happened. Along the way, Punk worked Terry Funk, and they used that to add to the program. Because I think Dreamer and Raven got involved at the end of that. They did something with that, I forget. But yeah, it's a significant moment in Punk's career. We're going to obviously see more of Punk in the coming weeks and stuff. And 2004 is another big step to the obviously pivotal 2005 and what happens to him before he goes and signs WWE. So there you go, folks. Jensen, anything else to add on the CM Punk Raven thing? This is the only match of that series we're going to do on this show. So anything else?
Nope. Just like I said, looking forward to Punk being a heel in AEW at some point in the near future, and also whenever we get to that time frame of before Punk signed with the WWE, that was a really fun time with him in Ring of Honor as a heel as well. So that'll be fun to rewatch. Okay,
so we're now heading. So they ended that feud in, I believe, October, and we're going to November now. War of the Wire. From what my research suggests, I'm not convinced this is actually true, but my research said so I'm going to believe it. I believe this is the very first Samoa Joe AJ Styles singles match. I believe. Okay, now it's hard, that stuff. Some shows get lost, so it may, but like in terms of a big stage relative, this is it. This show was named after the famous Homicide Steve Corino no rope barbed wire match, which I wish was on YouTube, but from what I can gather, it isn't. That was incredible. Joe is pretty deep into his famous title run here. The day before this match, him and AJ failed to win the tag titles from the Briscoes, which, like, again, the day before. It's pretty wild. CM Punk is on commentary, which means nothing to us, but people in the chat might pop for it. Now, Bob, you've seen these two dudes wrestle quite a bit, because from what I can gather, they wrestled about 15 times within a 4-month span in WWE at one point. They're a magical combination. They're a famous pairing. How early would you say you've seen them wrestle? Like mid-2000s with TNA, probably?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it specifically, but they almost certainly had to have had. Well, I don't know, because they might have only had pay-per-view matches on TNA against each other, but no, they probably had a.
They a lot of times. There's one in 2005 on pay-per-view that is out of this world, and I don't like the TNA stuff. Yeah, that match is.
Oh, I fucking love that match.
Incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
I love that match.
That's one of their both of them two of their best performances at the same time. It's 100%. Outrageous. So before we hit play on this deal, Jensen, any kind of overarching thoughts on either this moment or just generally this rivalry? Because, as I said, they're two guys that are kind of linked, I think, even if they never wrestle again, which seems unlikely at this point. They've wrestled so many times. Like, they're linked forever, right?
Yeah, that's why when they feuded in the WWE, I was a little disappointed because it was based around AJ's wife and stuff, wasn't it? And I was like, why wouldn't they just have these guys just go out there and just kill it in the ring? Like, we've seen them do it over and over again in every other company. But yeah, I mean, it also put it in perspective. This was in the middle of Joe's, I'd have to really think about it, but Samoa Joe's ROH World title run might be the most impressive title run I've ever seen.
I agree.
Especially if you're talking just independent wrestling. So every time Joe was wrestling in this time frame, it was a really big deal, and everybody was the expectations were always really high. Like, Samoa Joe's on the card, it's worth buying a ticket, and that's why he was so successful in TNA so quickly, because the fan base followed him over there. This is I'm looking forward to this, because I don't remember this match in particular, but I do remember both guys in this time frame. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
It isn't, and it's worth saying this because obviously I'm the one that picked these matches out for us, and partly is because of what isn't on YouTube, right? Like, Honor Club, I've had it before. I know that, frankly, unfortunately, very few people have it. We have to stick on to the matches they've uploaded. It's real great, but it's almost interesting that you kind of see what they're going to figure out in terms of how they can gel from that perspective. We'll talk a little bit about that title round point while the video's going here. But let's fire this thing up, folks. The second link is in the description of this video. War of the Wire, Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles. We're going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Now that title point you made, I saw Comrade actually asked earlier today, Bob's friend Comrade. He asked, who's the greatest Ring of Honor world champion ever? And I saw some replies, and most people had one of two choices. And these are the two that I would circle and figure out afterwards. It's Joe or Danielson, right? They got to be number one or two. It has to be.
Yeah, for me, it's Joe. But like, I understand. I mean, Danielson's run was incredible as well. But Joe's run also coincided with him like pretty much putting the company kind of on the map. Also,
Yeah, I agree.
And the crossovers, like getting like Kenta Kobashi and like that also because that also led to like Morishima and like then Morishima and Danielson. But like I don't know if that's possible without Joe's title reign first. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's difficult. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think it's Joe's. Yeah. I just gut feeling. I think it's Joe's.
It is iconic, and I don't know how much. Unfortunately, again because of what's uploaded and what isn't, I don't know how much of it we have. I looked at my thing earlier, and I didn't have like many of the title matches, which is a shame. What's a real shame is, and it feels pointless saying at this point, they're not going to fix it now, but what is a real shame is that when I had Honor Club, a lot of these early shows wasn't even on there. There will be matches that have been uploaded to YouTube that wasn't on Honor Club. I mean, it was frustrating in that regard, but I don't know, a lot of this tape library stuff.
There was a freeze there for everybody, right?
Yes, there was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was making sure my video was still playing.
I'm watching Profit TV, so like I get like 5-second ads every now and then, so I try to like speed it up after the ads to catch up with y'all. I just saw a Style just did a pop-up Hurricanrana. I don't know if that's how
you're like
I'm right ahead.
Yeah,
okay, let me I'll go back.
You're probably not as you think. Probably like 5 seconds. Okay, a little bit more than that.
Yeah, there's the Hurricanrana.
Okay, I just saw it again. Okay, perfect. And I also remember that Joe's attempt at the Hurricanrana.
Joe tried the
Hurricanrana. He nearly spiked himself on that. Yeah. That was very scary.
But I also like this is how big of a mark I was back in like the early 2000s. I used to watch Velocity every week, and I remember Samoa Joe from Velocity. I think that was the first time I saw him, and I remember thinking like, this guy is the world beater Ring of Honor, and then I was like, oh no, like this guy actually does totally rule. It's just like they didn't know like Velocity doesn't
look at Joe Matt wrestling here.
Yeah,
he's like 280, man. It's outrageous. That's a fascinating thing that you just said there, Jensen, because guys would show up on them shows, Rick. Like the one that always pops me, of course, this is the one I go, but it's just funny is when Kurt Angle does the open challenge thing and fucking Roddy Strong comes out and they have got the 2-minute match. Yeah, like, no one in the crowd has a clue who he is, and he's like a real player in Ring of Honor.
Joseph, I think Sean has a story coming out on that.
My God,
nice.
Fairly soon. Hold on.
Oh my God,
this could be a spoiler alert for everybody.
Okay, fair. Joe looks incredible here, by the way, man. He just to me, like, and again, it's not his prime is I would say 2005 is the year that we always go. That's peak Samoa Joe, but I mean this is it too. If we're being honest with ourselves, right? It's it's a kind of run.
Yeah, and I also remember back in these times, people even then had like an issue with Joe's weight and size, and like he's in comparison, he's like incredible.
He looks great. Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah.
That's just the industry then especially is like after WWF won, they thought they could decide who every star was, and they thought they had like this scouting book of like this height, this weight. That's how we did it with The Rock, and it's like no, that's not how it works. People connect, people get over.
Legitimately, sorry, cut everybody off.
It's fine.
One of my favorite sequences in wrestling history.
The AJ drop kick.
The AJ, the drop down, leapfrog drop kick.
It's so good that he can do it in every match and it never frustrates you. He does it in every match.
Yeah, he literally does it in like every single match, but it is so smooth every single time that I'm like, I'll watch that on a loop for days.
Absolutely. And it's worth saying, like, look, I agree with what Jensen said completely. As much as the Wendy stuff popped me because Joe was like good at it, which was hilarious. But
I mean, he's very believable in the microphone.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Those matches were still great. They were very different because they're both, they slowed down. It's particularly Joe. He changed his style. Mm-hmm. But they're so good. They didn't have bad matches. I mean, the one that they had in, I want to say the one they had in Australia was awesome. Really great match from what I recall. But they also did this spot regularly where Joe would just kick him through the ropes, which is always good. AJ and Okada are the two greatest drop kicks. That's interesting. I think they've got to be close, right? Who else is in that?
With Bob Roode, right?
Man.
Bob Roode?
Didn't you use the pop for Bob Roode's drop kick?
No, I think it was a drop kick.
I swear you popped for some like drop kick that it was like fine, but Or maybe Rude did this on TV. He's like, my drop kick is so good.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something I did.
I swear there was some pop.
Maybe you said a Roddy Strong, I'd have just taken the bullet and said I did it right. Oh, God, look at that. Look at that dive.
Joe's nearly killed himself a couple times.
Yeah, he has. Well, it's fine. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure his body feels great 18 years later. I'm sure he doesn't feel any of this.
Greg Carter said Orton and Bob Holly. I would say Randy Orton. That's,
he's good.
But yeah, good drop kicks from both of them.
Bob Holly is a good one. That's a very good
Holly, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Joe is one of those guys. Like, look, when I see that video that Omega had this week where he was talking about his body, and I get why people got reacted to it the way I understand it completely. There was some tales about young Samoa Joe, not too like I want to say before he even signed for WWE, where that this stuff. This weighs on your body, man. Like, you're not supposed to do this shit, And I'm not saying it's right. Like, if you're getting vertigo in the ring, probably trying to sit the bench for a little bit, if we're being honest with ourselves. But it is not uncommon in professional wrestling. Quite the opposite. It's very, very common.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it on here before, but after Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi, I remember they do like a sit down and Joe's like in the locker room with Joe right after. Yeah. And it's like that you can tell, like that takes a lot out of him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could absolutely. Which makes it even funnier when there was a great photo. I retweeted it, but did you guys see some of the imagery of King after Full Gear? By the way, listen to AJ on this dive. His legs hit that barricade so fucking hard. The ref is checking on him now. He banged into that thing, man. It was very, very loud. There was a great photo of King after the Punk match with like a cigarette in his mouth. And the blood was still on his wrist tape from beating up CM Punk. An incredible image.
Did you see the photos of Punk after it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, those are really good.
I'm actually thinking I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with that. It's saying that match was special. Man.
Yeah, I need to watch it again tomorrow, I think, because I enjoyed it, but I think I missed out on it a little bit. But
did you watch it in the best circumstance?
Yeah, no.
Fair.
I did not.
Were the Bulls losing or something?
Watch it with a bunch of Fed fans.
No, I watch by myself.
Oh. Sorry,
just one Fed fan.
Well, it was an awesome show.
It was.
Yeah, I did get to see most of it live. I was surprised. I didn't think I'd be able to see most of it, but I need to go back and watch it, though.
The thing about Punk and King is that match is short, so you can literally... Yeah. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times. It's easy watch.
All action. The entire time.
It is.
Also, just really quickly throw it out there just to get y'all's opinions, because I don't know which shows I said it on last week, but what match y'all think was the match of the night? If you had to pick one.
I honestly think King and Punk might be the match of the year.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
I told this to Joseph yesterday. Is like King and Punk just feels like it's in like a different category than a pro wrestling match. And
right.
Like, this is a compliment from me. I went Danielson and Nero, and that's to take absolutely nothing away from King Punk. O'Neal, I'm gonna kick your dog in the head.
Don't do that. Yeah.
I know.
Speaking of kicks to the head.
I don't know what his deal is, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Bob? Who do you think was the match of the night from what
I think it's probably I think I like Bryan and Miro the most, but like I said, I have to go back and watch King and Punk again. And I mean, Omega and Hangman was excellent as well. Like, not to take anything away from that. It was a great show, man.
I think Jensen is going to go MJF and Darby.
That is who I'm going to go with.
That was my second.
But dude, what a stacked show. I mean, like, almost every match you can make a case for the best match of the night.
Absolutely.
Which is a great problem to have. But, like, I think, man, because that crowd was so hot for that opener, too, and that storytelling was so good. Like, I loved MJF versus Darby.
I had it as a close second, so I think it's a very fair. The only reason I went with King and Punk, and I think I'm going to go with it, like, in a broader sense, is I don't think we'll ever forget what that went for stylistically, which is rare in wrestling nowadays. I love modern wrestling. There's more great wrestling than ever. That was something different, though. That stood in its own world a little bit. It was, as Jeremy said, it felt like it almost was in a different category.
Yeah.
And how many times do we talk about blood feuds and we say, hopefully they do a fight rather than a match, and they never do it. They never, ever do that shit. Them two dudes did it. So that's where I'm at. But it was a great show.
Yeah. I love Joe's when he chained together submissions. Like this is definitely not his peak of chaining get together
Right.
submissions. We'll talk about the whole match as a. We'll talk about the match as a whole when it's over. But yeah, when he gets like really comfortable doing that shit,
Right.
it's so smooth.
I will say, if you guys are watching this on mute, like the chat and you guys doing the show, like this is definitely one of those deals where if you can hear the strikes, they are hitting each other so hard. I mean, you can see it. Sometimes you can see the sweat flying, but good lord, it's physical, man. And that's something that kind of defined their rivalry. AJ don't shy away from those brawls, them bomb fests. He's in there. Look at this. What an insane professional wrestler Samoa Joe was, man. This is a big guy. Like he's just an anomaly, a complete anomaly.
What's going on with him right now? I know he's not cleared, but is it like, does anyone know like what is going on?
No
Or
one has any idea.
no.
Feels like Go ahead, Bob. What was you gonna say?
Well, he seems like doing his scouting and stuff, but I don't know. Like when he got brought up in that Punk and Kingston promo at Rampage, it was kind of interesting. Like I know it makes sense to bring him up,
bro, King. That Eddie didn't run any of that shit by anyone, man.
That's fair.
He's fucking brought up Amazing Red. In any other case, you're absolutely correct, but you got to realize that Eddie probably didn't even talk to anyone that day. You know, the dude's. It went 10 minutes for that segment. He's just saying names.
But he really does feel like the one. I mean, outside of AJ, but like as far as people who like had like with him leaving the WWE and then re-signing with the WWE, Samoa Joe, it's like.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about like what's going on with him, but like part of me is just kind of like, dude, if you wouldn't have gotten back,
to me that feels telling. You know, it feels like he wants to have that the office job that he's secured.
Yeah.
I think and he's my favorite wrestler ever. But when he went back there, my take was he don't really want to be having the kind of matches he'd have to have in AEW. To be honest with you, Because we both know, like, the standard's higher, man. Like, you look how Punk's working, I don't think Joe's can do that anymore. I mean, I love the guy. I hope he can. I hope he does. But him going back there and getting that job, like, that feels like he knows he needs to get himself, like, a route out of the ring in some way.
Yeah, I'm with you. That makes sense. I mean, is that what he's mainly doing now is scouting talent?
Yeah.
What is he scouting for? Like, because they're not really using indie guys anymore. So, like, what is he?
I think since they've reprogrammed their thing, he's becoming like sort of the athlete. Like they give him he goes through the guys' resumes, and I think he's doing it because they used to have obviously a plethora of guys did that, and a lot of them have been phased out in recent years. I don't know what his kind of job security is, and I mean that in the most loving way because they literally fired him 6 months ago. But he's a very smart guy, and I feel like he's done something with that. So that move to us makes no sense, which tells me there's something to it. There's more to it. I feel like he's a smart guy, man. He doesn't strike me as someone that get kind of naively swung by WWF shit. Like I think he did what was right for him, whatever that means. We may never know. I don't know.
I mean, especially when you think about it, he was one of the first guys when he came into NXT that like kept his name and had merch right away and like. The whole deal,
Yeah, absolutely. And he was able to remember initially he was taking independent dates. He was just like a guy that worked TV. It was a really interesting deal that he had there. Kind of a one like I don't think there's ever been another deal like that for WWE, hilariously. So I don't know. It was a good run. Joe had a really good run in WWE, in all truth. I mean, it'd been great if he'd become champ, but I get it. Like he was a top guy for 3 years. It's a good run.
Yeah.
Look at this physicality, man. The one thing that's interesting about this match is look at AJ firing.
Those are all real punches.
Oh, yeah. AJ, look at this. Oh, it's awesome. AJ appeared to like genuinely blow himself up in this match by trying to do like power stuff on Joe, which is hilarious because he very seldom does that in any of their matches after this point, really. He learned his lesson, I feel. That's the stuff that they kind of settle on. They become famous for. Like Jeremy, that match, the turning point match, the strikes in that thing are like, they're disgusting.
Yeah. Once this match ends, there's going to be a little bit of a compare and contrast to that.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So without giving anything away, do you get what I meant when I said it's a really good match, but you can see how they...
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's
really interesting.
Where I'm going is like, I mean, I guess you say it now, but like, you watch this match, and then Turning Point was 2 years later.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit longer because that was.
So I think it's yeah. So there you go, just over 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's almost night and day, and that's not to say this match has been bad or anything, but you can tell the chemistry isn't quite there the same way. There's some clunky stuff. Joe nearly died on a couple of spots early in the match, and like it ain't completely there. Compare it to Turning Point 2.5 years later, where like they are on point in that match.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, this gets an incredible reaction in the house.
Yeah, I imagine, because people think that's the end of
Yeah,
Joe's
like you
match.
could see people jumping down. And it's worth noting, if you guys are watching this match and you're really enjoying it like I am, but you've not seen Turning Point, you may think, well, that seemed harsh. The Turning Point match is one of the most incredible events of chemistry I've ever seen in a wrestling ring.
I don't know if I've said this publicly, but I'll put it out there right now.
My God,
I like it better than the triple threat.
Wow.
Oh no,
really?
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
More than wow, okay.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more like, I'll be honest, man, I think it's a great match, the Unbreakable deal. But like when you watch it back, it is genuinely just 20 minutes of guys doing their moves. And it's brilliant, it's innovative, but like there's a lot more to sink your teeth into, I think, with the big singles match.
Right.
Now it's worth noting, and Jeremy might be the same in this, I'm not a big triple threat guy. It's not my, so maybe that's part of it.
It's not even that I'm not a triple threat guy. Like I can take or leave with that stuff, and I don't like it most of the time nowadays because it's the same formula.
Yeah, which is that formula.
And like sometimes they try to break away from it and stuff, but it doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. That Turning Point match I haven't seen it in a while. I'm gonna have to.
What we should do is at some point we should do that as like a separate thing. We'll try and do that at some point.
Yeah, that's
obviously Jensen. If your schedule allows, you're more than welcome to join us.
I'm down.
We'll do something with the TNA because the folks always bury me for hating on TNA. So we'll do like a little TNA playlist one day.
Dude,
our own channel now, guys.
When TNA was good, it was great. Like
I know.
But a lot of people just missed it.
It just should have been better though. Like it should. Like you look at what these guys are doing here. It could have been much more of an. By the way, he nearly killed him on that muscle buster.
Yes,
God bless.
He did.
Look at the way he rolls him over the choke. No, look, I dunk on TNA a lot as a bit. I just think when you look at their roster in like 05, 06, and you look at what some of this talent is doing there, it's like, man, you really could have been doing, rather than having Jeff Jarrett, like you could have really done some interesting stuff on top. But they struggled a lot. They're an interesting story. They really are.
No, I definitely agree with that. Like there was, like the talent pool they had there was absolutely incredible, and they did tend to, because I do remember living through that, and like I never liked the Jeff Jarrett title reign,
right?
In TNA, you know what I mean? Like, but I was like, but they got AJ and they got Monty Brown, and like even like Abyss was like showing a lot of potential, and like but then they'd like it'd be like Rhino and Raven would be like the champions.
See what I'm saying?
It was like, yeah. So no, I'm with you, but like the in-ring matches, like that, the X division in particular. If I never got just the X division and the tag team title division, like that's some real, because that's the stuff we never really talk about. Like America's Most Wanted and Triple X, and
for sure,
all that kind of Team Canada and the X Division Cups. Those used to be awesome.
It's really interesting the way that the company's kind of the legacy of the company and what it represents. And like, I think one of its biggest flaws was that it failed to have a true identity. It didn't ever quite figure out like what it truly was going to represent and what its place in history was going to be. And now you have this weird thing where like their history and their identity now is hard to kill, which I think is one of the funniest things ever. It's hilarious to me. There's definitely good stuff there because they had a great talent pool, but just, you mentioned some of the names then. It always felt like they never quite, like to me, they never produced a product even half as complete as what AEW is right now. Oh, and that isn't saying AEW is perfect, but like, it's a different level to what. There's nothing. There's no.
Even the best company of all time already. All right.
God bless.
Look, keep it real.
I'm not. You know what? I don't even disagree. God bless. All hell, Fleet Flag, and all that stuff. Now I have to say this because it's just come up as my suggested video before we review that match. What are we doing in terms of the 1 hour Samoa Joe CM Punk match that they've uploaded on YouTube? I don't know when they uploaded it, but like us sitting here for an hour, Bob may like die on the air, which may make it better or worse. I don't know. What do we think we do with that eventually?
I'm down to watch it.
Yeah, I think we could handle it.
Yeah.
Jeremy looks very concerned about his answers.
Look, I'm fine with it. I mean, the show goes an hour anyway, and we usually watch 2 matches. I imagine
it's an important match, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much I will like it, especially now, but it's an important match. Okay, Jeremy, you kind of mentioned anything to add on that perspective, because I completely agree with you. Anything else on the kind of the evolving chemistry of those two wrestlers?
No, again, like if having watched them wrestle so many times over the years, and again that turning point match, watching that it feels very night and day to what we see even in WWE. But you can tell they were just trying to find their footing as rivals and opponents here, and they definitely found their footing throughout the years.
Absolutely. Jensen, any thoughts on the first singles meeting of Samoa Joe and AJ Styles?
No, good stuff. Good kind of taste of what was to come throughout both of their careers, and legitimately 2 of the best in-ring workers ever. Like, I'd put them on a very short list of people that I think are, maybe not the most entertaining characters, maybe not the best on the CM Punk's, or sorry, Samoa Joe's pretty damn good on the mic. AJ's, here or there, but in the ring, I think it's pretty undoubtable. Two of the best in-ring guys I've ever seen in my life. So. Yeah,
no, I absolutely agree. Bob, you've seen, based on what you said earlier, like the matches you remember most vividly are the WWE matches, which, as I said, I think are really good matches. Any thoughts? Kind of, there's a big gap between. There's like 15 years between those matches. Any kind of notes on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool like to see the first one, and then you kind of see things evolve a little bit into the triple threat. I haven't seen the turning point match you guys are talking about, and then just evolve further into the WWE stuff. It's kind of cool to see where it all started.
We will do something with that. I don't know how soon, because we have a lot of moving pieces here, but we'll try and do that, because that's Jeremy reacted to that match the same way that I think of it, as like, fuck, it's incredible. So it'll be hilarious when we get Jensen and Bob on them. They don't like the match at all. But there you go. Next week, we're heading a month forward in timeline with Final Battle. We've got CM Punk and Colt Cabana versus Miyamoto and Honma, which is a really interesting match from a really interesting show where the All Japan talent came over. And we've also got, a couple of weeks after that, the Briscoes versus Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe, which I feel pretty safe in saying is going to be quite good. I can't remember it very well. I'll probably watch it at some point, so we have some kind of talking points going in.
Are these like singlet era Briscoes? Like when they were like
early. This is January 2004, so there's a very good chance.
Because they had quite the transformation over the years.
Yes,
I remember those guys as kind of like lanky dudes wearing like wrestling spandex, and now they're like, now they're what they are. So.
What rules about that is like that's 100% true. But for the last decade, it appears like whenever you go back to Ring of Honor, they're just the exact same. And they're like they're always like in some sort of like. They're chasing the tag belts again. They've gone through a little bit of a rift.
Their dad's involved.
It's always an adventure with the Briscoes. Sometimes not in the best ways, but it's professional wrestlers days. Now, any comment on next week's lineup, folks? Got a couple nice matches there. Bob, any thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, stuff I haven't seen before, and it's cool to kind of continue going through this journey here.
Jeremy Lambert?
Should be fun. I'll message you. I actually won't be on the show next week.
No, I think what we're going to do is, because you guys did it for me, I think the straight timeline we'll just keep to when we're all here.
Okay.
And next week I'll find some sort of different ones that didn't fit into the, or that are way ahead of time anyway. Because that's what you guys did, right? You watched like Adam Cole and
yeah.
We'll do that. We'll do it. I know it's tough. I know the audience is tough because we're stopping and starting, but like I missed one. I missed two actually, and you guys stopped the process. So we'll do the same when you're out.
Okay, then when we watch those matches, I look forward to it, and I look forward to messaging you at 3:00 in the morning. Be like, Joseph, what are we watching today?
Maybe what we should do is, I'm trying to think about this now, because you should be there for the Turning Point program. I'm trying to think, because there's something to that, Like next week we do TNA instead.
Oh, I definitely want to be there for Turning Point. You can watch shitty TNA.
We could also tape it.
Dude, let's watch like an Amazing Red X Division match or something.
Okay, here's what we'll do. We won't do the Turning Point match because Jeremy wants to watch that, but we will do a TNA, like little, couple matches from TNA.
We can do. Remember, I don't. Well, we're also got to be able to find them, I guess, too. But like Loki and Amazing Red, I remember being really good, like really early TNA and stuff like that. We'll find some stuff. We'll go back in the time machine and figure out what to watch.
They've got some free match uploads. We'll have a little think about it, but that'll be next week, folks. The great Jeremy Lambert will not be here. Bob O'Neill will be taking the lead next week. He'll be doing the big intro. He didn't know that until I told him just now, live on the air. But
O'Neill would kill it though. When we had
he's good,
the intro last week on the distraction, he knew what he was doing.
He's very good at what he does. He sometimes sandbags, is what he is. All right. Thanks for joining us as always.
Real quickly.
Yes.
Because we do have bobber chats to read. I didn't really plug them, but we do.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, we do have a couple. If you want
to,
send some more, more than welcome to. The link is pinned at the top here. We'll hopefully be monetized in December. Hopefully.
Yeah, so we don't have to promote bobber chats. Is that why?
Yeah. Peter Brothers says, "Hi, I just wanted to drop my first ever chat and give some love to my family and the host." God, so these chats, like, it cuts off in the middle. It doesn't like read full sentences. So I like, so dumb. Give some love to my favorite host and show on Fightful. My God, this is your favorite show on Fightful?
Sorry to hear that. You should watch some of the other ones.
No, man, that's what's up.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
As the channel has been a support system for my mental health, I'll be late to the party due to the UK time difference, but the Keep Gabagool. I think this is actually for the NXT show and not us.
Boo!
I really think this is for the NXT show.
Oh,
not us
man,
at all.
we're over here like,
my God,
we're your favorite show, man. You want an autograph?
So do we have any bobber chats?
We do, from Jay Shell Nicole. That's the one. Sending y'all a Humper chat. This will probably be my fifth ROH match I've seen. Teach me all your knowledge. Thanks. Hope you are having a good day. So there you go. Jay Shell did send this one. Peter Bradders was very early on the NXT review and was not for us. Very sad.
Well, you get what you get, I suppose.
I'm going to put that on our invoice anyway. Fuck it.
Okay, good. In about 23 hours, we'll be back here to talk about the All Elite Fleet. We'll be previewing Dynamite, which will be interesting for many reasons, but we'll leave that till then. Thursday, the Distraction Podcast, very famous program on Fightful, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, post-show at 4:30 Eastern Time on here, this channel you're watching now. Friday, absolutely nothing other than the late night grim for me and a Twitch stream for Jeremy. And that's about my plug. Steven Jensen, promote yourself, pal.
Tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, me and Doug, live rounds every Tuesday. We'll be reviewing AEW Full Gear tonight and talking a whole bunch of pro wrestling stuff, probably some MMA also. So check that out on the RVD Tito for Life channel. That's RVD Tito, the number 4 LAFE. Thoughts are with Jessie Davin. I'm actually about to call her and see how she's doing. And you can check my show out with her. That's over on her YouTube channel. But of course, she's dealing with some health issues right now. So, just want to throw that out there. Make sure to show her some love today if y'all are hearing this. And FightfulSelect.com. You can listen to the Weekender podcast every Sunday. I talk independent wrestling, a whole bunch of stuff. And keep an eye out for the next issue of Fightful Magazine. I have a feature coming out about Matt Cardona's independent run. And I've had a lot of fun writing that. And thank you to Jeremy for helping me with some pointers on that, too. I think it made it better for the final edit that I put in there. So
I hope
that's everything I go on.
Worse. That would be bad.
Well, no, I took your advice and I added a few of those things in there. So I think it made it better. So yeah, and Fight Talk _ is the Twitter. So thanks again, guys. This was a lot of fun. I really like watching these old ROH matches.
Jeremy, you never give me advice. Do I have to pay you? Did Jensen pay you?
No, Jensen didn't pay me. If you send me stuff, Joseph,
I don't do that. I
was about to say,
I mix
Jensen
it.
Jensen was like, I haven't written anything in forever. Will you, your videos? I said, sure.
I'm sure
anybody who does want any type of advice, if you want me to look over something, if you want any type of help in this stupid world of pro wrestling media and content, DM me. My DMs are open for a reason, and I will do my best to try to help you. Jay Shell, who was in the chat and sent the chat, she has messaged me and was like, "Hey, can you look this over for me and just give me some feedback on it?" And I'm not going to just be like, "It was great, like great job." Like I'm going to give you honest feedback on shit.
My God. Jeremy just put himself over pretty strong there, Bob. You got anything to promote?
Yeah, you follow me on Twitter at Robert31. No Bulls game tonight, so we'll watch some of the lesser teams, I guess, and talk about that.
I'm excited for this Warriors Nets game in 6 minutes.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
Which Bob's tweet about that was just revolting.
What'd you tweet about the Warriors and Nets?
That may be worth a watch, you know. Sure.
Well, I didn't really realize the Nets have turned it around, so they're
like
now.
good again.
Yeah, who'd have thought it? Huh? They'd be a good team. Is that are we good, Jeremy? Have you got anything else to promote? Any Twitch streams?
I do want to say Twitch. Tomorrow, twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming, about 1:00. I have a beta edition of the new game Wrestle Deck that I'm going to be streaming. So come there, check it out. I heard there's some surprises in the Wrestle Deck, so should be fun.
Is it the Fiend Bray Wyatt?
It's not the Fiend Bray Wyatt.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Thursdays over there too. Fightful Distraction. Me and Joel. Last week we played No Mercy. We've been playing like some throwback WWE or like wrestling games. So. Do more on Twitch, y'all. Follow the Twitch, Fightful Gaming.
Yeah, the Twitch is actually good, but I don't think I get paid on it anymore, so.
Once we do the TEW series,
I'm hoping that filters over into me. So it's a self-sustaining economy here.
That was just me at my absolute worst, right? I began to promote it and then just stop myself to instead brief everyone. Incredible. Dude,
once we shoot the TEW series back up, then you're back on the Twitch payroll.
I'll promote it accordingly. All right. Folks, thanks for joining us. That good stuff. Stay honorable. Continue to shake hands, but watch them first. God bless.